Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another installment of the Wits Innovation Seminar Series. It's wonderful to be with you this afternoon. I'm Adam Pantanovitz from the WIC, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this session where we will be hearing from Mr. Letlotlo Phohole, the Senior Program Manager at the Wits Innovation Center. So my dear colleague with whom I work very closely at the WIC, and who has been a transformative force in the WIC since its inception just over a year ago in making changes to how we do things in the Wits innovation ecosystem. Letlotlo, a huge welcome to you, and thank you so much for giving us this talk on enhancing innovation, readiness in the knowledge economy. Letlotlo is a very seasoned innovator with extensive experience across multiple engineering related disciplines, and he has worked and served in a variety of innovation related roles. His education includes an MSc in technology and innovation management, and he is really no newbie to lecturing because he's given extensive lectures in innovation related topics and in systems thinking and in the design thinking course, which is part of our new course in the WIC, the PG Dip in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Letlotlo, it's wonderful to have you this afternoon. Thank you so much for taking your time. I'm going to hand over to you to give us your talk, and then I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes to work through some of the questions. So please do feel free to ask questions as Letlotlo takes us through his keynote, and over to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Adam. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. It's always nice to share insights. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this can actually help us enhance our innovation readiness, especially in this knowledge economy that we have. Okay, yeah. So on my side, I always need to calibrate myself because there's so much happening. So I thought I'll just start by saying why we're here. So this is what I promised that this talk will explore, the concept of innovation readiness within this framework of the knowledge economy. And I must say, innovation readiness is something that is there, but it's not common in a lot of industries. And it's something that I think as the university, we're also trying to see how we can take advantage of that. And we, I think, in a better position now to start sharing some of the insights that we have so far. But I think if I have to be honest with you, there's just a couple of things we're really going to talk about. It's around creativity, it's around innovation, and it's about change. So I think most of the time we talk of these things in separate forms, but part of what I want to talk about is for us to be making proper impact in the knowledge economy. We need to start looking at the combination of these three areas. And yeah, I think part of my background includes being a systems engineer. So as a systems thinker, we love complex stuff. We like dealing with complex problems. But there's some principles in systems thinking. We say you need to challenge your mental model. So some of the things I'm going to say here are going to challenge your mental model. Some of your blood is going to boil a bit, but just bear with me. If that's happening, maybe I'm just challenging your mental model. And we also say we need to get things from multiple perspectives. And I think having this seminar series as the Wits Innovation Center, it's also a way of sharing and getting inputs from multiple stakeholders. And the third thing is stay a learner. So I always tell people there's no limit to what we don't know. So so I take every day, every opportunity as a learning opportunity. And yeah, talking about challenging mental models, let me just live up to my reputation and start asking simple questions. I think most of us know Michelangelo, and in the context of us talking about creativity and innovation and change, one can ask, when you think of Michelangelo, what do you think of? Do you see him as a creator? Do you see him as an innovator? Do you see him as a change driver? And I think it is easy for us to see how one might not think of Michelangelo um, as um, as being a smart guy, and I'm saying that with respect. But creative, yes. But smart or innovative, as some people equate smartness with innovation or being innovative. Maybe that's something that can be discussed. But I'm mentioning this because in his time, he did one of the greatest contributions in the world, and it was mostly around creativity. And um, and we actually needed him to do that. And maybe he didn't need to do modern innovation. Maybe he didn't need to do what we sometimes in our silos call innovation. Maybe he didn't need to change the world, but he played a role, and one can see that. And then I'm going to look at another person that most of us should know. That's Alexander Graham Bell. And again, ask the same question: what can Alexander Graham Bell teach us? What can we learn from what he's done? So when you using those three things, creativity, innovation, and change, I think history sees Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, amongst other things. We look at him and we see sort of a symbol of innovation. And why we say that is because he invented the telephone. He came up with something that people didn't know that they needed. Um, and so he did a model, he had something to demonstrate, and only when people saw it working, then they started thinking that, wow, this is something that we can use. And that actually drove change. And right now, most of us up to today, we are benefiting from this guy that is seen as being innovative. So I'm mentioning these two guys because there's a lot that we can learn from them. But if he didn't have a creative mind, he wouldn't have invented something that maybe people didn't know that they needed. Sometimes, as we say, you don't know what you don't know. And, whether it was luck or whether he was creative, it's something else. I think some of my friends who are from like the humanities side of things or careers, they like saying we as engineers are not creative. And yeah, and I accept that sometimes we are not, but I think this Alexander Graham Bell showed creativity by coming up with something that people did not know they needed, and once they saw something and they caught on to it, it actually changed the world. And now that we're talking about the world in the knowledge economy, when you're talking about business, one needs to talk about the combination. So I think collectively, if you look at what Michelangelo and Bell can teach us, is that when you combine creativity with innovation, and you don't stop there, then you have the driving change. I think in the knowledge economy, that's what we need. And I think for me, this is what we see as the cylinders in the engine of the modern business. So it's nice to do things, But if it's got a market for one, you do it in your garage, and it does not drive change, it's good. But in the knowledge economy, it becomes a bit difficult for us to actually um, uh, uh, like recognize it as having that impact that we need, especially in this knowledge economy. So for me, that's very important. And those that say I'm not creative, if I look at the lights on your slide there, so I can just imagine these lights being the cylinders of an engine, and I see them moving up and down. So I think I'll give myself 2 marks for creativity there. But I think the point here is one can learn a lot from this basic example. And then I'm going to change gears and also challenge your mental models, especially because we're talking about this knowledge economy. So I've got this as a puzzle. How can you explain these puzzles in economic growth? So most of us would know that, Germany and Japan and other countries, but as an example, these two suffered huge losses in World War II. And all resources critical to the economy were destroyed. So resources critical to the economy, we're talking roads, bridges, houses, And I think on my left, on my right here, I've got the photos of Hiroshima in 1945. After that, atomic bomb or that nuclear bomb, it destroyed a whole lot of things. And then you look at 2020 or even today, a lot has happened. But the point here is what really happened? How did they, just after World War II, the economy of Germany and of Japan grew at a much faster rate than the developed economies, such as the US, Canada, and France. And there's many other examples that you can think of. So the question is, how did that happen? What actually drove them? I ask myself, in our country here, if we have to have something like this, where we struggle with potholes and infrastructure and all of that, if our resources critical to the economy were destroyed, how long will it take us to recover? And I'm going to talk about one of the famous economists, Professor Solos. I hope I pronounced the name right. I'm sure there's economists here, but he actually won a Nobel Prize, I think in 1987, and he's got this thing called, or named after him, this economic model. And what's interesting about it is he's saying for you to actually impact your GDP, you need to have human capital. So we need people. But if you look at what we have here, there's an E there. It's educated labor. So you need educated labor, and then you need the physical capital. So you need machinery and equipment, and you need ideas. So he's got a little formula which I won't share here, where he talks about the combination of these three critical elements will actually help create your GDP. And they actually use this model to explain why the likes of Germany and Japan managed to create an economy faster than the US and other leading developed nations within 10 years. So it was a combination of having these three. And these are the type of things that we talk about when we're looking at the knowledge economy. And talking about the knowledge economy, some of the key elements that one looks at to survive in this knowledge economy. You need perpetual innovation, and you need to be producing and imagining, so innovation comes a lot, ideas comes a lot, so you must produce, but you must imagine, and there must be that change in culture, so I mentioned about, challenging your own mental models. So those things to us are very important. So you need this combination for you to be saying that you are actively participating in the knowledge economy. And we are told that, this is some old quote to say, build a better mousetrap and the world will be the path to your door, and yeah, so part of what we're trying to do here, I think, as a country and definitely as vets, is to build this better mousetrap, and hopefully all roads will lead to vets. But at the end of the day, the message here is to invent the next great thing. You have to have a better idea. So without people, without educated people, without ideas, and without the machinery or the capital, we might find ourselves struggling in taking things forward. So what I'm trying to say is change is very important, and we need to be change savvy, and the question is always, are you ready for the change? And for me, this is very important. It reminds me of the Matrix movie, with Morpheus saying, are you choosing the red pill or the blue pill? So I've just recreated something to that effect, but it's about understanding and grasping change as it happens, and realizing what it can mean in your companies, in your positions, in your life. But are you really ready for change? So the other way of looking at it is, if I ask you about, what nice things are out there in terms of innovation and technology and in the knowledge economy, a lot of us are looking at things from outside. We are standing outside like this gentleman here. Let's give him a name. Let's say this is Paul. Paul is looking outside and admiring the Googles of this world, the Amazons of this world. So a lot of us can tell about a lot of things that are out there, and you know, and we can write about it, we can talk about it. But I think where we want to be like this lady here. Let's say her name is Norma. We want to be like Norma, um, who is part of the change. You're not looking from outside, you are inside, you drive the change. And for me, I think when we're talking about trying to enhance what we do in this knowledge economy, it is better to be positioned inside where you drive the change. And part of, I think, the opportunity that we have under the Vets Innovation Center is to drive the change. I'm not saying I'm Norma. I'm not saying Adam is Norma. Adam is a definite he, him. I'm a definite he, him. But this is the message that we pushing here to say we are here to drive change, and we are here to show how we can use innovation readiness levels to drive that change. So one other piece on the knowledge economy is, can define it. There's lots of definitions, but I like the pillars. There's pillars on the economic and institutional regime. There's education and skills. So you can see as a university, we are well positioned there. There's the innovation system and the information and communications infrastructure. So these are some of the things that some key scholars believe is required to help us in this knowledge economy. But as vets, we went and we created our own definition of innovation. So there's lots of innovation definitions, that we've learned about from everywhere. But when we wanted to drive change within our own university, we realized that people were looking at innovation from different perspectives. So we said innovation is the successful deployment of new ideas or methods to benefit society. So it's important to say there's new ideas, there's methods to benefit society. So that's why we start talking about Wits for good or innovation for good. And we're saying for us to have this, we need collaboration. We no longer talk about the triple helix. I think I've had the triple helix for the longest time while I was in government, and they still talk triple helix. We're talking of the quintuple helix. We're saying what we want to look at must involve industry, government, academia, society. How do you benefit society if you don't see them as part of your innovation ecosystem? Society and environment. We are living in this environment that is changing all the time. And we're saying we would like to have these outputs that are either tangible or intangible. So, let your mind be free. Let's create tangible and intangible things. And most of what we want to look at is things that can be taught and learned. And most of all, it must be done in an ethical manner. So briefly, I just want to say we're using what we call innovation readiness levels. And this is just a matrix. To us, it's used to assess our preparedness as an organization, as a sector, as an economy, to develop, implement, and new technologies or processes. And we're looking at different lenses, whether it's from a technology readiness level perspective, manufacturing or production, market readiness, investment, intellectual property rights, society, and consumer. So if I just close the loop in terms of the three areas we talked about, being creative, being innovative, and driving change. So, intellectual property is actually creations of the mind, so whether it's a trademark, a patent, a copyright, or a registered design, those are creations of the mind. So these are part of the creative outputs that one needs to look at. So on our side, we're saying we're looking at the intellectual property rights from a creative perspective. And yes, where it's necessary, we protect those assets. And then from the innovation perspective, this is where we can talk about technology readiness levels, manufacturing readiness levels, and investment readiness levels. So if you come to me and you're talking about technology, it's important to say technology in what field. So, how we look at readiness levels in engineering is different to how we look at it in science. It's different to how we look at it in software development. It's different to how we look at it from a medical technology perspective. So, we look at innovation or technology readiness levels from a number of perspectives. And whatever you're doing, if there's something that needs to be manufactured or produced or scaled up, we can look at manufacturing readiness levels. And we cannot have innovation without some investment. So sometimes your technology might be right, but if you are not ready for the investors, so we have what we call investment readiness levels. So these are the things that we can associate with innovation. And then the last part is about driving change, which is very important. So if we have to drive change, if Alexander Graham Bell didn't have a market, people that are using the telephone, whatever he came up with wouldn't have been available today. So we look at market readiness levels, and then we look at society readiness levels. So it's nice to do things. I think for me, my first sort of 10 years as an engineer were interesting. We used to do a lot of nice things, and then there was no absorption of our technologies sometimes in the mining sector. And it's because the community or the society that we were serving were not ready for it. So sometimes you come up with something and you are ahead. So you need to actually educate people, put them, like align them, be at the same similar maturity level for them to be able to accept what you have. So we're saying we look at the market, and then in that market, it's made of the society and community. We need to make sure that those two areas are aligned, and we have to look at the readiness level from that perspective. As an example, here's a quick innovation readiness level example. And, so if I'm looking at any technology that you might think of, and I measure the different readiness levels, I know where we are now, and I know where we need to be. So I can have an intelligent conversation to say, gee, professor, or what, captains of industry, we have this technology, but we need to move it from this readiness level to that readiness level. And in terms of the market, we there's room for improvement. Actually, if you don't know, like where you are, if you cannot measure, you cannot really control anything. Yeah. So the point here is you end up having some sort of a dashboard, and if you are focusing on one area than the other, then you can actually sort of reallocate your resources and focus on key aspects that will make your innovation actually appropriate. So if I'm talking to an investor, sometimes we we present something that in terms of the technology readiness, it is very high, but we've done nothing about preparing ourselves to talk to investors. So, so in this case, if my innovation that I'm looking at, has got a very low investor readiness levels, and we have visitors here that are venture capitalists, I will ask you, just to be in the background. We won't make you, the star of the show, because you will not be in a position to talk to the relevant people. So the point is, one needs to know where you are, and be able to acknowledge the change that needs to happen for you to be in a better position in terms of innovation readiness levels. And this is how we actually see, like how, see how we can really impact what we do from a risk management perspective, using this innovation readiness levels in the knowledge economy. And I thought I must just share something, if we do things right, if, you've got the right attributes, you've talked to the right people, you've got the market and all of that, I think at the end of the day, we want to be happy and we want some development. But yeah, this is not my work. I forgot to just quote it. But they say there is not a perfect correlation between happiness and per capita income. So a lot of people, which is right, we go into business, to make money. And some people with money are not happy. Some without money are happy. But I think on our side, all we're saying is, if we want to be like those countries that took, educated labor, they took ideas and the capital that they had no mineral resources. They just took those three and they managed to turn their economy around and are now one of the leaders in this knowledge economy. I think that's what we probably could do. And yeah, I like the second part. I wish it was true, So in this case, I'm not happy. So if I could get an annual increase of between 10,000 and 20,000, there is some literature that suggests that the percentage of people who get an annual increase of between 10,000 to 20,000 US dollars, which can be like let's say a 200 to 400,000 increase in your salary, apparently they tend, to be more happy. Yeah. So Adam and Wits, if you want to keep us happy, this is what we need. And you can use this anywhere else. But I think with that, I just want to thank you, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Letlotlo. I appreciate I appreciate the content that you presented, and I appreciate the comments about happiness. And I agree that there seems to be studies around a plateau in happiness when people achieve certain income goals. And it's actually that happiness is not really linked to income so long as there is a baseline income that people are
Absolutely.
achieving. And I think
Yes.
that's, yeah, and market development of innovative products is one way to make sure that innovators at Wits are rewarded. We have been working, as you know, aggressively on the commercialization guidelines on enablement for researchers and innovators. And prior to the Wits Innovation Center, on the very policy that governs IP, to be an extremely progressive university. So I think I've said in a previous session, there's no better time than now to innovate. But Letlotlo, thank you very, very much for your thoughts here. Fortunately, we have a great deal of time remaining to
Yes.
consider and interrogate your thoughts a little more deeply.
Yep.
So I'm going to open up the floor to questions and say to everyone, please do submit any questions that you have in the chat for Letlotlo, and we will be working through these questions now as we go. The first question that's come in from Sisonke is a very insightful question. It's how do you measure the readiness? Can you comment, please, on some of that?
Okay. Yeah, so the way we measure the readiness, yeah, so I didn't go into detail here. So every readiness level has got sort of exit things. So for example, if you are at technology readiness level 1, that's where you will probably have a concept, maybe a concept on paper. And then as you go up the readiness levels, you have different types of outputs or outcomes that you need to achieve for you to say you are on one readiness level or not. I think technology readiness level are very popular. If you just Google it now, you will see the scale of 1 to 9, and and very clear in terms of what you need to have for you to say you are you are at a certain readiness level. So yeah, so I think at Wits, and I didn't share the detail here. We've gone and detailed all of these readiness levels to where we can interrogate every opportunity that we have. And yeah, so same with market. If you've never thought of a market, maybe you might be on readiness level 0, but the minute you start interrogating and saying, you know what, I think I've got an idea of the market. Sometimes people go onto this market studies, and then they come and say, wow, if you're looking at the breast cancer, the market in South Africa is so many million people. And, so that's one thing, but sometimes we need to say that might be the market in general, but are there other players in there? Are you at the point where you've identified sort of the total addressable market from your perspective? So that now takes you up the market readiness levels. And when you've identified companies that you can work with, let's say using competitor analysis and other due diligence mechanisms, then you can say, wow, you know what, I could work with Sasol or with CSIR on this thing. And now when you've identified someone like that, and there's an agreement where they say, wow, you know what, if you can get this to work, we can work with you. So then you can actually start working up those readiness levels. So yeah, IP the same. Sometimes you just have an idea. Sometimes you are at the patent application stage, which can take anything from 12 months up to 60 months sometimes for that patent to be granted. So depending on where you are, we have a way of slicing and dicing it. Yeah, but I'm happy to engage offline on some of the details of this. But I think the point here was to sell the concept. Thank you.
Patrick's followed up on a related question to ask what factors influence the weighting of the readiness level criteria. So can you comment there?
Yeah, look, I think the weighting is very important. And to be honest with you, it is something that differs from industry to industry. For example, if you're looking at something in engineering and something in health, um, it's it's difficult to actually put just one similar weighting for all different types of sectors. So part of what we're looking at this, it's exactly that, to see what would make sense. For example, with us as vets, we have five faculties: engineering and the built environment, we have science, we have health sciences, we have humanities, and we also have commerce, law, and management. And they all come from different perspectives, and sometimes one needs to tweak some of the things to make sure that the language is understood. And those are different perspectives, and I've never seen somebody that has actually cracked the weighting on these different readiness levels. Yeah, and if you do, it might be a nice PhD topic, by the way. Yeah, so I think it's something that people should be looking at. Yeah, but for now, on our side, we, because we're trying to push the boundaries, we are testing, and because we're doing it within our environment, yeah, so we have the leverage to play with it, and once you get the final, let's say, aggregate score, you can link it to say, wow, there's room for improvement here, or this thing is ready for commercialization. Because sometimes people hold on to things forever, and so internally we say, once you have made progress in enough of these readiness levels, it can be a signal for us to say, gee, we should be having a spin-off company here. Or if we add this and that effort on one or two, then we can take it to the next level. But maybe to answer your question, the jury is still out on the weighting, especially for different sectors that we're dealing with.
Great, Letlotlo. Can I ask you to comment? I don't know if you're able to, but it seems that there's been renewed interest outside of our university on some of the work that you and the Wits Innovation Centre's team have been doing on the innovation readiness levels. Do you want to give us a brief comment on that?
Yeah, I think the scary thing is, maybe I'll just take back, say a few things before that. I mean, I used to be at the Technology Innovation Agency, and at some point we were, we were looking at a consistent way of maybe assessing the type of funding applications that we were getting. And because I had this technology and innovation management background, I had done a bit of technology readiness levels. When we were faced with that problem, I actually helped introduce technology readiness levels, where we would say that, you know what, as the Technology Innovation Agency, we are here to bridge the innovation chasm, and the chasm is normally between this readiness level and like maybe around 3 and 5 or so, and that's why when you go to the Technology Innovation Agency, even today, you will find that they talk of the readiness levels, and things that are too early are actually determined on this readiness level. So I'm saying this work didn't start here. I started implementing things there. So when I came here, and part of my portfolio is the is innovation support or the tech transfer office or function of the university. And we have this huge portfolio of intellectual property, and for us to move it, so that's where I thought, let's look at using this readiness levels, market. I think a lot of people are starting to do market readiness level manufacturing, but we added investment, IP, um, um, and we also started looking at, as I've mentioned before, the society and which are very difficult. That's why I didn't put it here. Those are more difficult to measure: society and the community readiness levels. So when you talk to people in the tech transfer space, there's a lot of interest where people realize that, wow, we're having the same blockages. And as such, we will be presenting a more detailed a view from Wits at one of the, let's say, events with the tech transfer offices around the country. It's called Sarima. Yeah, um, so there is a lot of interest whenever we talk. The universities are saying, "Wow, we're having this." Yeah, so I think we're just privileged to be at Wits to give people a bit of the edge. And even when we talk to science councils, they've also shown a lot of interest in this, because we are all having similar problems where people are focusing on one side of this bigger perspective. Yeah, so there's interest from other universities and science councils at the moment.
So it's excellent that Wits is shaking things up in the IP and tech transfer landscape under this leadership and this thought leadership that you're presenting. Do you see this as a filter to potential commercialization, be it through licensing or through spin-outs and startups? Or do you see this as a dimensional analysis through which to enhance the engagement and conversation so that people can see where the blind spots are to optimize their chance of success?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's more about giving everyone a fair chance. So part of the things that we've adopted on our side is to say we want to have sort of transparent processes. We want to have open and transparent even operations and stuff. But I think the bigger thing is sometimes our innovators that take things and commercialize are the ones that have got a certain character. They might be they might have an entrepreneurial mindset, um, but we also have researchers that are doing things in their little corners. So the work is there, but their voices are not heard. So with this approach, we don't just look at the readiness level of an opportunity coming from a professor or a student or a innovator that that is present and pushing us, but we are even going to these ones that are sitting in the corner to say, wow, if we assess your work, it's actually ready for commercialization. So I see this as a way to also take the people that that don't shout the loudest, and give them the opportunity, the free and fair, without talking about elections, but the free and fair opportunity for each intellectual property asset that we have. We just want to give that opportunity, the right environment to thrive. Whether the guy chases me and calls me 10 times a day, or not. So I hope I answer your question, Adam. That's how we see this readiness levels moving forward.
Thank you very, very much. So Luke Chimuka has asked, how do we plan as the WIC to get everyone on board in the innovation ecosystem at Wits? And I want to add to that, how do we plan to get everyone outside of Wits on board with the innovation ecosystem? Because clearly, as your talk has shown us, innovation extends beyond the confines and boundaries of the university's edge. Lucas said he's aware of the programs which focus on staff and postgraduates, but what about the undergraduates? Any
Okay.
comments on there? And I'm happy to comment with you. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Now this feels like an interview, but that's a nice question. Look, wonderful. So, and everything is a process. I think sometimes, people look at things in isolation and they just see one initiative there, one there. But it all started when vets, through the leadership of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Zeblon Vilakazi, who used to be a deputy vice chancellor for research. And when he became the vice chancellor, he actually said his previous post must not be DVC research, must be research and innovation. So it started there with the moonshot. And that's why now we have Professor Lynn Morris, who is the deputy vice chancellor for research and innovation. So it started with that vision. And then VETS has got this strategic plan, like we have one for 2033. And in there, innovation actually is central to everything. And from that plan, we cascade and we started having our own strategic plan on innovation. So I was involved in doing that. And that's where we came up with this definition of innovation. And that definition of innovation came from a collection of workshops that I was lucky enough to run. And thanks to the support of the DVC and the late Professor Barry Dolaski. So I ran those workshops using what we call six thinking heads. And we worked with all the faculties and the entities of the university to see what is innovation to them. So we started with the vision of the vice chancellor. We went into the strategic plan of the university, and then we came up with the strategic plan on innovation. And now, once we have that, I think under the DVC, we now have deputy deans that are focusing on research and innovation. So these are new elements that have been added into our ecosystem, and even the deputy deans, they have this meetings that they call the faculty. We call it the FRIC, the faculty research committee, and now we're saying research and innovation committee. So I'm just showing you how it's actually cascading from the top. So those elements are there. So the innovation readiness levels that I have, we've been talking to innovators and getting that. So now we will be working through the deputy deans on innovation to actually help us take the message to all the researchers that are involved and those that we want to involve in future. So, I think, some of you has been involved in some of the initiatives that we've had on like entrepreneurship and innovation workshop that we have. There's one planned for later this year. And that's another thing where we invite everyone, even outside people. I know there's people on this call that come from those courses, and with the Afritech support, we also have people from other African countries that are participating in that. but a lot of our students are actually participating in this workshops to help people from ideation to commercialization. So Adam is also running this postgraduate diploma in innovation. It's another initiative where, again, open to everyone to make sure that we can actually take the message of entrepreneurship and innovation to the broader community, including both the academic and the students. And for that matter, tomorrow we are celebrating the World IP Day here at Wits. And in there, we're going to recognize people that have achieved a number of things in terms of their intellectual property assets, patents that are granted. We recognizing people whose patents are cited. So basically, your patent is actually a seed for another patent, and mostly it's big companies that people don't even know of. But more importantly, we also recognizing student entrepreneurs. So part of what we've been doing is we've been working with the deputy or let's say the dean of students and his office, and they've got programs all year round that actually help our students to be part of this entrepreneurship journey. And some of them have gone and created their own businesses out of this stuff that we are having, and we will be recognizing about 16 of them tomorrow. So I think, look, I hope that answers your question, but I thought I must just take it from the top since we had a bit of time to show you it is not like something that's happening by accident. It's all a plan, so it's been happening gradually, and then, like as they say, gradually then suddenly, so some people just see these things now, but I'm saying it's part of a bigger plan, and that's what we've been doing as the university. Thank you.
Excellent, Letlotlo. And I would like to add, we're also open and continue to have shorter engagements, such as short courses around innovation, which run at the moment twice a year. We're looking at expanding this effort. And we, by invitation, go and give talks about innovation, about the innovation mindset, about various aspects of accessing the innovation ecosystem. And it's not just the Wits Innovation Center who's on this journey. There are other pockets of entrepreneurship through the university. There are entities outside of the university who are working toward this. It's a grand and big vision for our entire Wits innovation ecosystem. So we are happy to play a leading role in that regard as the WIC. And we would like to extend the invitation to anyone who's on the call here now for tomorrow. Please go and register. If you aren't currently attending, there's been a lot of work from the Letlotlo and the team to prepare for tomorrow's World IP Day celebration at Wits. And I think it's going to be a very interesting and extraordinary day. It's part of our broader outreach as the WIC into the university, and as we continue to innovate and add to the Wits innovation ecosystem. Now, Letlotlo, just one more question is just around any indigenous knowledge technology innovations that we've dealt with in the office. Have you got any guidance on that?
Sure. Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, look, I think at the moment, I mean, what I know about indigenous knowledge systems is from my the days with DST and stuff, or DSI as they call themselves. So I know things from that perspective. And yeah, but for me personally, I haven't engaged in deep stuff around the indigenous knowledge stuff. But I can tell you from our IP portfolio, we have people that are looking at things that are linked to that. For example, we've got people that are looking at moringa, which people know it can be used for a number of things around medicinal purposes, and yeah, so we do have a couple of things that can be linked to that. But I think there's definitely sort of room for improvement because there's a lot in terms of IKS that I'm aware of personally, but but I think it's an area that we need to push, and I'm happy to take some inputs on pointers in terms of where we can go and see how we can sort of create another enabling role to try and implement and amplify those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Letlotlo, and thank you for all your comments and for the thought leadership this afternoon. Wonderful to see Annalisa has joined us as well. So a sincere thanks to Annalisa for continued support of your career, because I know that you are an incredibly hardworking person. And I also want to recognize the impact you've had at Wits so far in the Wits Innovation Center and through the Wits Innovation Center, and looking very forward to continuing to work with you toward enhancing and creating an ecosystem that flourishes and enables as many Wits researchers, students, and staff as we can, and entrepreneurs to create a better future for our country, leveraging traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and other forms of knowledge that we create at Wits University. This has been a wonderful session. I want to thank you all for your participation and attendance today. Thank you for your support, and please do join us tomorrow at our IP Day celebration. Letlotlo, thank you.